And joining me now is former Congressman Colin Allred of Texas. It's great to see you. Let me first start by asking you, I mean, is it a coincidence that you launched your campaign the same day that the Senate, with the support of Senator Cornyn, passed the big ugly bill? Is that a coincidence?
Well, thanks, Jen. Thank you for having me on. It's just a coincidence. I could not have known that they were going to do something, I think, this harmful to Texans today. But I think this is just another example of insiders rigging the game for their friends, and Texas families are paying the price. Listen, let's be very clear. This is going to make life more expensive for Texans. It's going to kick Texans off their health care. This is something that's going to raise our energy costs at a time when everybody's talking about affordability and the cost of living. And for somebody like me who grew up being raised by a single mom in Dallas as a public school teacher, I know what this is going to mean for average families. This bill is a disaster.
I expect it's going to be pretty central to your campaign. Let me ask you, though, I mean, before you're running for John Cornyn's seat, but there's a primary first. And in two recent polls, including one from Trump's own pollster, which matched you up in the very Trumpy State Attorney General Ken Paxton, you take the lead. So are you hoping to face Ken Paxton, or how are you factoring in the outcome of the primary to how you're going to run this race?
I don't think it matters. What I see is folks are either too weak or too corrupt to stand up for Texas. And listen, I'm somebody who, the way I grew up, knowing that in the last election, there were some promises made to folks about lowering their costs. And I think a lot of working people took that and said, well, listen, maybe somebody will be on my side. But what they've gotten instead is that they've been betrayed. And instead, they've seen their costs go up. They've seen a chaotic tariff situation that's making this entire system not work for us. In Texas is the #1 trade state in the country. And we need somebody who's going to stand up for us. And so whether it's John Cornyn, Ken Paxton, I don't care. We need somebody who will fight for Texans first. That's what I'll do. Democrats
haven't won a Senate race in Texas since 1988. I think this is correct. 1988. That's a long time ago. You yourself lost a Senate race by just 8 months ago by 8 points. What's different this time?
Yeah. Well, I just think everything's backwards. I think everything's upside down. You know, I see hardworking folks who are just working harder than ever, who can't get ahead. Whereas the folks who are cutting deals and cutting corners, I mean, they're doing just fine. And we just can't continue like this. And so, listen, I know that all across Texas, there are people who are waking up every single day, going to work, dropping their kids off, doing what they need to be doing. And I know that they're hoping that their elected officials are working as hard as they are. And the fact is, these folks will not do it. And so I need everyone to get involved with us here in Texas, make sure that we can give 30 million Texans a senator that they deserve. So go to ColinAllred.com, get involved with our campaign. Whether it's Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, doesn't matter. We'll beat them. We'll make sure we give representation to our state, but also somebody to stand up for our values as a country.
You do have the website right behind your head, which I was admiring the backdrop before you came on. There is one of the differences is that Donald Trump is in office now. Republicans are in control of the Senate and the House. They just passed this big, ugly, terrible bill where people are going to lose their health insurance, lose their SNAP benefits. As you said, energy prices will go up. Does that bill become a central part of your argument if you know, moving forward once you work through the Republican primary?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect encapsulation of the problem that we have, which is that folks were, looking in the last election for somebody who would help lower their costs, coming out of COVID, knowing that inflation was too high, hoping that somebody was going to be on their side. And so they voted in good faith, thinking that maybe they would. And instead, they've been betrayed. And what we're seeing is this bill is a perfect example of it. You're talking about the hardest working folks, the folks who work paycheck to paycheck on this bill, whereas the wealthiest Americans are going to just be making out like bandits. I mean, it's outrageous, and every American, every Texan should be outraged by it. The fact that John Cornyn knows that this is going to cost 1 million Texans their health insurance in the state with the highest uninsured rate in the country, and that'll pass on higher costs to every other Texan, even if you are insured. He knows that, and he still voted for it. We can't put up with this anymore.
Colin Allred, thank you so much for joining me the day you announced. We appreciate it.